have to say that, you know, we must treat every member of the council consistently, every member of the governing body, every member of city staff consistently. And a qualified elector, we understand, you know, you can maintain a domicile and not live there and still be considered a qualified elector by the state statutes. I think that's wrong. And to stay in a seat knowing that you are not laying your head there at night, it is wrong. It's legal, Larry. I know it's legal, but it's wrong. And just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's right. And so that's why I'm offering this resolution this evening, and we'll have discussion on it. I do want to make a point of clarification or point of order on this. I believe that the subject of the censure cannot vote on the censure. I believe that's how Robert's Rule states, and so that is something that we must clarify before a vote. But I believe that is the case.
We have a resolution number now.
1907.
1907. Thank you very much. So with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 1907 to censure City Council Vice President Larry Fodovich for conduct detrimental to the spirit of the office of council member of the City of Gardner, Kansas.
Second.
Motion, second, Roberts, that we censure Council Vice President Larry Fodovich. At this point, since we didn't allow for discussion before the motion, questions and or discussion?
Yeah, I've got a few questions. First of all, if I'm not mistaken, when we talked about Charter Ordinance 19, you said you don't want to strengthen the residency requirements because in many cases you would be considered, because of your travel, I'm pretty sure you said this, you would be considered not a resident in certain months.
No, what I said.
What did you say?
What I said was that, and then, by the way, we did strengthen the travel the residency requirements because of the fact that we reverted to state statute, which was a lot less nebulous than the ordinance, and I think that that was the right move to make. What I stated was that if we were to try to make a legal argument on residency, legal argument, Larry, I'm not making a legal argument. If we were to make a legal argument on residency, it would open up all sorts of inquiries as to what would be considered residency, all right? I'm not making a legal argument here. I'm making a moral and ethical argument. That's covered under censure. I'm not doing this from a legal standpoint. I don't pretend to do this from a legal standpoint. So from that perspective, I think that argument is nebulous. I mean, it's moot. It's a red herring.
But you said he no longer intends to live in the house.
That's correct, based on the facts previous in the
How do you know that?
resolution. Well, you have an empty house. Well, it's got furniture in it.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, you know that?
Yes, I do.
How do you know it's got furniture in it?
I think we've got evidence that you are living in Olathe, Larry. Your family's living in
asking,
Olathe.
how do you know what do you know about the house?
And again, this is not a legal argument. This is a question of right and wrong. And I know that a lot of times
I don't think you can divine intention. I mean, I'm a realtor. I could flip the other house. I could be making repairs. It doesn't. You don't really know anything.
you moved your family there, Larry.
My kids are.
Do you admit that you moved your family to Olathe?
My family has, as I've said many times, has occupied both houses, and we continue to occupy both houses. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to, for any length of time, have two houses that are not producing income. You know, however, I could just as easily flip the other house, and the family can stay here. I can live here. The rest of my family can move to Olathe.
Okay.
Something you hadn't considered, I'm sure. I could be selling this house in Olathe, moving the family there, buying another house in Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
Could I not? Do you know these things? You don't know these things, do you?
Larry?
Is there some sort of a form that a person must sign as far as their intention? Because this is what you said. No, he no longer intends to live in it. How do you know that?
Based on the facts that are laid out in that.
What are those facts?
Well, Larry,
How do you know intention?
We'll find out in a couple of minutes when we decide to have a vote on this resolution.
No, the vote doesn't talk about intention.
I'm not going to deal with a grilling here.
The intention is what you presented as evidence as to why I should be censured, which I believe you said I was a good guy, but
Yes.
as far as conduct, so I guess the question is, how do you know my intentions? Where is it required that anyone place their intentions anywhere? And also, what is the rationale for a censure?
There's no legal requirement for intention, and I'm not making a legal
You
argument,
are,
Larry.
you said right here, he no longer intends to live in it.
That's not a legal argument.
Well, what is that? That's an accusation.
It's an assessment based on evidence that we've, that.
Oh, you've got evidence. Who's we?
We, meaning myself and my eyes.
Well, so you have been to the house?
Well, let me see here. There is a picture that's here talking about your neighborhood association, or your neighbors in the
It's
lake.
a picture, Steve. I mean, do you not go to parties? I mean, maybe, I'll tell you what, how if we have a barbecue at my house this weekend? Would that satisfy the legal requirement? At the Gardner house, would it? Yes or no?
I do have a couple statements. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned intention, and I didn't really hear this rebuttal 2 weeks ago that you may or may not sell this house, live there, vice versa, your family there.
It's my
you
choice.
here. I understand that, but my opinion is still the same as it was 2 weeks ago. That's why I seconded it. I feel like, Steve, your intention is to move and not
Not me.
represent Gardner. Not Steve, Larry to move, sorry. And I mentioned the intention 2 weeks ago, and you didn't give this rebuttal 2 weeks ago, so my gut feeling is your intention is to move to Olathe.
So now that I've given the rebuttal, you're not willing to change your opinion?
I
don't owe anybody a rebuttal. This is a personal decision.
No, it is, totally.
It is something that is in a state of flux. There's no requirement for me to move to Olathe. I have two houses, as I've said. I'm not intending to leave both of them not income producing. I can tell you that much. So if the house can't be sold, I assure you that this is going to remain my residence. But for the moment, I've occupied the residence. I comply with the law. You guys can't provide any evidence to the contrary, and you really can't get inside a person's head and say he has no intention of returning.
Let me ask just two pointed questions, and I think it is germane to the conversation. If your house in Gardner were to sell next week, where would you live? If you were to get an asking offer and the house were to have sold, where would you live then?
That is a personal decision, much like Rich Melton said, he doesn't know where he's living.
Okay.
And it goes beyond a need for you to delve into.
That's fine.
Delve into my personal life.
Let me ask a second question then, more pointed. If anyone else on the council were to maintain a private residence, or primary residence not owning property within the city of Gardner any longer, would you find it appropriate for them to serve on the council?
Wait a second. Say that again. So you're
Let's
saying
say
they
next week
have no address here?
No, next week, I buy a house in Olathe, sell the house in Gardner, July 1st, I no longer live in Gardner.
Well, of
Would you
course.
find it appropriate for me to
No,
serve on the council?
I have not done that. I would not remain on the council without an address, a legal address, and a legal right to vote here. I would not do that, and you know that.
So if your house were to sell and you Olathe residence was your primary residence, you would resign?
I have not changed my record, my primary residence record, so it's, as I said, and as I told Chris today, it's all up in the air. The real estate market dictates, really what happens. And I stuck my neck out a little bit, but I'm more than happy to take a nice profit on the house I bought. If necessary, I'll do whatever it takes. So, it's really none of your business. Now one thing I do think, though, is that you have to consider that, from your perspective, what I've done is unethical, but from my perspective, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the state and the laws of the city, and I intend to do that as long as I'm legally able to do that. And as I said, I mean, I'm not the kind of person that's going to change my residence if the house sells to another location, if that's not a good investment. I mean, if it's a good investment and I want to continue to reside here, I'll do that. But I'm not going to have no ties to the community as far as a place of residence and continue to serve on the council. Not only that be unethical, I think that would be illegal, right? And then I think you'd have a case for, some other legal action, I would think, to consider the office vacant. But until that point, I think, you know, in my opinion, you guys are violating the rules and procedures that you've all endorsed